like to call to order the City of Douglasville's legislative work session for tonight. We'll have our invocation that will be done by Executive Pastor Henry Greenidge of Trinity World Christian Center, and after that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel. Please stand for the invocation.
Good evening. I recently listened to the victory speech of Ayanna Pressley, first black woman congressman from the state of Massachusetts. They were screaming sounds of adulation, and she interrupted them and said, "Change cannot wait, and neither can this speech." And she referred to the glass ceiling that all women face in politics, but for women of color, the concrete ceiling. But she asked, what is it that breaks through concrete? Seismic shifts. So in the midst of the seismic shifts that are happening across the nation, real change happens on the local level when elected leaders decide to find common good, build relationships, and work together for the common good. Let us pray. I invite you, Holy Spirit, to breathe on us so that we as a community can work and walk together into a brighter future here in Douglasville. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem, for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Executive Pastor Greenwich for your words of reflection. That was a blessing, and one thing we can all unify on is Veterans Day that just passed, and being united in this country for that. So I will go through the announcements and presentations, and I'm so elated this evening to have one of our outstanding citizens who is a city resident, and to read a congratulatory letter to her. So it's Ms. Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to read this, and then we'll come around and take pictures. I know you were looking out for her, so yes, sir. So I will read this to the Director of External Affairs, Ms. Tiffany Stanley Stewart. It's a congratulatory letter. She's being recognized by the Georgia Trend magazine, and so we're so happy and proud that she is part of that magazine, and this is the cover of the magazine, 40 of 40 Best in Georgia. And so I'll read your congratulatory letter, Ms. Stewart Stanley, and then we'll have you come around and take a picture, and you can say a few words before we take the picture as well. Office of the Mayor, Douglasville, Georgia, letter of congratulations. Whereas for 22 years, Georgia Trend magazine has celebrated the states of Georgia's rising stars under the age of 40. And whereas this year's recipients were nominated by Georgia Trend readers who know them well, from over 300 nominations, the Georgia Trend staff made their final selections. And whereas Tiffany Stanley Stewart, Director of External Affairs for Douglas County and one of our distinguished citizens of the city of Douglasville, has been named to the 2018 Georgia Trend 40 under 40 class. And whereas Ms. Stanley Stewart is the first person to ever hold her position of Director of External Affairs in Douglas County. In her role, she serves the Douglasville, Douglas County community by assisting with grant applications, fosters behavioral health awareness, works with local legislators, and engages with the public daily. And now, therefore, I, Rochelle Robinson, Mayor of the City of Douglasville, do hereby commend Ms. Tiffany Stanley Stewart on her commitment to service and exceptional leadership within the Douglasville, Douglas County community. So awarded this November 15th, 2018 day. And we are very happy to congratulate you. Congratulate Ms. Stanley Stewart.
Good evening,
am I
Mayor.
missing Stewart Stanley? I said Stanley Stewart.
That's okay. It happens all the time.
I know. I always say that. Miss Tiffany Esquire. She's an attorney as well. But.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I am so humbled by this honor. I really appreciate it, and I wouldn't have this honor without the support of people in the community like yourselves and having people like you to be our role models. So I am very excited. Thank you so much, and I am truly humbled.
You're welcome. We'll come around and take a picture with you. I didn't know it was a tongue twister, Stuart Stanley. All righty. So again, oh, Madam Chair. It's good to see. Redo the picture.
You want to do the picture with Madam Chair or not?
Mayor Pro Tem, Madam Chair, Mayor Pro Tem wants to redo the picture with you in it. Okay, let's do that. I apologize, council members, we're getting our exercise. Just want to make sure the Chair of the County Commission, Dr. Ramona Jackson Jones, is coming. We want to make sure that we include her in the picture. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. They're on our Facebook page. Thank you so much, council members, and thank you so much, Dr. Jones, for coming to our meeting this evening. We appreciate your attendance. So I'd like to welcome you to the City of Douglasville's legislative work session. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion and no official action will be taken tonight. Official action, of course, will be taken next Monday during our meeting there at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item that is comments from citizens and delegates section for you to discuss your business. There are just a few protocol issues I'd like to go over so that we'll all be on the same page. I ask that you would keep your comments and presentations on a professional level dealing with the facts for this body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You'll receive a warning from the chair. If you deviate from that warning and that requirement, a second deviation will result in a request for you to leave the chambers and the premises this evening. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers. Speak from the audience, cheer, carry on conversations with others, or be disruptive in any other way. I remind you that we are only required to accept public comments on zoning matters. We're not required to accept comments on other items before this council, and we will maintain order. If you have a cell phone or electronic device, we'll ask that you would please put those in silent mode or turn those off so they won't be disruptive during the meeting. Now, the agenda items will be held as follows. They'll be handled this way. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item. Then the person representing the agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation, and that's your first opportunity to make your presentation and show us the information. Then myself and council members will possibly ask questions to seek more information about the applicant. After that, the committee chair will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There will be a maximum time of 30 minutes for the speaker, those in, that want to approve the item, and then those in opposition. So each person will have 5 minutes allotted in this 30-minute time frame on the pros side and the con side, the ones who are for it or against it. When you come to the podium, please give us your name and address for the record. For the city clerk, Ms. Vicki Ackert, there should have been a form that you should have filled out. That's on the table. Each person has one opportunity to present. And I will remind you that this is not a question and answer format or a debate format. We're just here to receive information so that it will help us to make our decision. And that's it. So we will go on with the agenda items as they're listed. And the agendas are outside on that table if you have not received one. Where's our screen? What happened? Oh, I was going to say, or it will be on the screen. Okay. Just noticed that. All right, so we'll go on with the agenda items, and they're printed. We're having technical difficulties, so it will not be on the screen this evening. So the first committee is Public Safety Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, thank you. I have a couple of items, maybe
Okay.
3 items. Item A, hold a public hearing to consider a request to the change in agent outlet manager for alcoholic beverages license for the retail package sale of wine and malt beverages at the following establishment: licensing Walmart Store East LP, DBA Walmart, number 3205, located 110 Thornton Road. Current agent outlet manager Oscar Swanigan. Proposed agent outlet manager Wayne Marshall. The required fees have been paid into the finance department. Will the applicant please come down, state your name, and if you're here to represent Walmart. Well, hello, Ms. Walmart.
Yes, Miss Rachel.
Good evening, council members. How are you?
Thank you.
My name is Rachel Bordeaux. My address is 6695 Church Street here in Douglasville. Mr. Marshall, I had tried to contact his cell phone 3 times. He did not answer. His mailbox was full, so I could not leave a voicemail. His secondary number is for Walmart, and I did call that number, and they said he was off today. So I was not able to get a hold of him to remind him to come tonight. And I do see that the location, the address is incorrect. I do apologize for that. It's supposed to be 1100 1100 Thornton Road, so that will be changed on Monday.
So we are not ready anyway, so
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to put this back on the agenda for Monday.
Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
ma'am.
Chairman. Thank you, Miss Rachel.
Okay, item B, authorize the mayor to sign agreement with the Douglas County Board of Commissioners for construction and use for a communication tower at the intersection of Fairburn Road, Shoals School Road, and for use of the city existing tower, Spring Street. So we got a report.
Ms. Littlefield, you have anything to add?
Not much. Mr. Chairman, the county did agree to your offer for offset on the value of the land, and that figure is included in your contract.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'd like to put this on the consent agenda for Monday, if the council willing.
Mr. Chairman, I do have a
Have some
question, if I
discussion.
might.
Okay.
I know that we're including both the site for the new tower at Fairburn and School Shoals Road, School Shoals Road, I believe is the name, and also for the existing tower. Does that mean then that the county would become co-owners of that site, or that they would be allowed to have radio equipment on that tower as a tenant?
This is a very long contract, and so they will be able to be a tenant. They will not be an owner of either site.
Okay.
They'll just
wanted
be a
that
tenant.
clarification. I wasn't sure.
We good?
Yes, I'm fine otherwise. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Mayor, I'd like to put this back on the consent agenda for Monday, if we will.
Do we have any other comments from council members about that? I just want to thank Madam Chair. We appreciate your cooperation with us, with the county and the city as it relates to this item. Thank you. All right, Mr. Chairman, I have that for consent
Okay.
agenda.
We move on to item C, adopt an ordinance to amend subsection 10-2, 3A, 10-149, 3A, 1 and 10-149, 3B, 1 of the alcoholic beverage ordinance to allow pouring of alcoholic beverages to begin at 11 a.m. on Sundays. So, Madam Mayor, if no one have any
I think we go.
questions, I want to put this on the agenda put this back on the consent agenda for Monday, because the voters have stepped up. So,
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment?
Overview.
only a good comment. Okay, yes,
Well, I
sir.
want to make sure that the minutes reflect the actual vote that was cast by the citizens of the city of Douglasville in the special election last week. And that was votes in favor of the change to the Sunday serving hours, 7,996 yes, and 4,113 no, which is approximately 66% yes, 34% no. That's over 12,000 people who voted on that, and that's a lot more than we'll have in the municipal general election next year. So I think it does very accurately reflect the will of the people of the city of Douglasville. That's all I have to add.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anyone else?
is there any other change that we would be making? I don't have anything in red here on this. I want to make sure that that's the only change that we'll be making to our ordinance at this time.
That's the only change, sir. It has to be made several times in the ordinance, but it's the only substantive change.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
It's really not necessarily related to this ordinance that the citizens just voted on, but the first time I noticed that we have pouring hours at the conference center from 6 a.m. to 11:30 p.m. Have we ever had an event here at the conference center where they were pouring at 6 a.m.? I just was curious about that.
6 a.m. in the morning?
That's what it says in the ordinance.
That's a
Monday through
mistake.
Saturday, they could legally do so, but that's never happened.
No, that's never happened.
It's pretty early.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, if no one else, Madam Mayor, I'd like to put it on the consent agenda again
Okay.
for Monday. And that's all I have. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Community and Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have several items. I'm going to read the first 6 together before we talk about them. Item A, appoint John McDuffie to the Retail One post on the City of Douglasville's Convention and Visitor Bureau Advisory Board for a 2-year term extending through December 31st, 2020. Item B, appoint Tujuanza Ernest to the Restaurant One post of the City of Douglasville's Convention and Visitors Bureau Advisory Board for a 2-year term extending through December 31st, 2020. Item C, appoint Metch Schaefer to the Hotel 2 post on the City of Douglasville's Convention and Visitor Bureau Advisory Board for a 2-year term extending through December 31st, 2020. Item D, appoint Michael Carey to the Retail 2 Mall post on the City of Douglasville's Convention and Visitor Bureau Advisory Board for a 2-year term extending through December 31st, 2020. Item E, appoint Samantha Rosado to the City Post on the City of Douglasville Convention and Visitor Bureau Advisory Board for an unexpired term expiring December 31st, 2019. And F, appoint Whitney Constian to the Chamber Post of the City of Douglasville's Convention and Visitors Bureau Advisory Board for a 2-year term extending through December 31st, 2020. We have already interviewed all 6 of these candidates. Some are reappointments, some are new appointments. And is there anybody else who wants to add to this, City Manager?
No, sir.
That pretty much covers it then. Any comments or questions from Mayor and Council?
Yes, sir. I did have a comment, Mr.
Yes,
Mayor
ma'am.
Pro Tem. I wanted to thank staff, Samantha Rosario, Ms. Patrice Williams, Assistant City Manager, Ms. Chelsea Jackson, City Manager Marsha Hampton, and Ms. Jennifer in the Conference Center for really being such a stellar board that people would want to serve. And I want to thank the citizens for coming forward to have the mall manager, Arbor Place mall manager, manager of Dillard's, people that work in restaurants and hotels. We really, really appreciate their time. This is not a paid board. This is volunteer. And there was a time where we couldn't find volunteers. So for us to have people that serve and fill every post is just really commendable to the community. And we appreciate their time and participation. Thank you. That's all I wanted to say.
Anyone else? All right, then, hearing no other comments, unless there are any objections, I would like to place all 6 of these on the consent agenda for Monday, so I don't have to read them all again on Monday. No objections. Okay, and I have one other item. That is to adopt a resolution approving a time-limited, performance-based ad valorem property tax incentive for the benefit of Douglas DC 2013 LLC and Gordon Food Service Incorporated, and authorize the mayor to sign a tax incentives agreement with these companies. And we have the executive director of the Development Authority here to comment on this. I don't know if you noticed, but Gordon Food Service is having an event here in the conference center, and they've got all their signage out there in the lobby.
What an appropriate day to be here. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Chris Pumphrey, 8512 Bowden Street, Douglasville. I'm glad to be here this evening, and the example of Gordon Food Service being here is an example of a community corporate citizen here in our community. Gordon Food Service is a Grand Rapids, Michigan-based company. They are a food service provider. They mainly provide to restaurant establishments and some retail establishments across the country. They are considered one of the country leaders. They are a family-owned business. Some of their major competitors are companies like Cisco and some others. But Gordon Food Service, founded in 1897, decided to locate here in our community, and we've been grateful to have them here. They have roughly 450 employees at their operation. As I mentioned, they're a family-owned company, but also a very family-oriented company. They do a lot for their employees, for the communities that they reside in. One of the unique things about Gordon Food Service is that for their folks, not only do they provide educational assistance for their employees, but they also extend that to their employees' spouses as well. So they really are a great company, and we're thankful to have them here. Back in 2013, as part of the attraction component to get them to locate in Douglasville, we extended to them a property tax incentive for them to create jobs and investment here, roughly 400 jobs and about $90 or so million of investment. They are tracking well on that plan. Gordon has looked to reinvest into their facility to create greater automation in the facility to make themselves even more productive. And so what we are here for, as a recommendation of the City of Douglasville Development Authority, is to recommend that Gordon Food Service and their expansion be a part of a new tax incentive plan. What they will be doing is investing roughly $21 million in equipment in their operations, and an additional $3 million into the actual facility itself. This will be an upskill of about 20 or so employees. So those employees will go through a retraining so that they can be well equipped to manage this new automated equipment. So typically when you hear about automation being inserted, it can mean that you're losing jobs, but in this instance you're not. You're actually upskilling current positions and then adding an additional 4 positions to that operation. With Gordon Food Service being located on Riverside Parkway, they have great access to the metro area. They will not be adding new truck traffic to the area. It will solely be just an enhancement of the operation, as I mentioned, being more productive. As a part of the tax incentive plan that was approved a number of years ago, they fall within that plan with the additional 4 jobs, an additional $24 million of capital investment at an average wage of $19.62, and a retention of roughly 20 jobs that are actually being upskilled in the operation. So we are putting before you, hopefully for your approval, that you approve Gordon Food Service to be on a 10-year tax incentive plan for this expansion of the operation. And I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Pumphrey. Just want to highlight one thing you said there is that it will not add any trucks to Riverside Parkway beyond what they already have.
That is correct.
And I understand that one of their customers is our Douglas County school system, correct?
That is correct.
That's
as well.
I want to highlight that because we have one of our school board members sitting in the audience, Mr. Devitrion Caldwell. So welcome. And I open it up to comments and questions from Mayor and Council.
Thank you,
Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, the only thing I wanted to, I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Executive Director, for all the hard work that you're doing and how you're attracting businesses and enhancing those that are here to stay and invest more into the community. So we really appreciate the job that you're doing on behalf of the city and the county. And for the council's knowledge, Mr. Humphreys did at the State of the Region for the Atlanta Regional Commission. He was one of the keynote speakers. He spoke about economic development, and it was really, really well received. I received text messages from Henry County and all over the region about how well that you did. So we want to congratulate you on that as well. And I know you've been here since college, but I think you brought the weather from Wisconsin, the Green Bay Packers tonight. Thank you so much.
It's a little cold out there.
It is cold. Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
How long will the tax incentives be in place?
So for this expansion, it will be a 10-year plan.
10-year plan. And what was it before?
So the prior plan is still in place. It's a completely separate plan. So they're in year 4 or 5 of the existing plan, which covers the initial 400 job commitment and $90 million investment. So that will be a plan that will still run its 10 years. This will be a 10-year plan just on the new investment in jobs.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Mr. Pumphrey, is this something that's common? I guess I was involved just after I came on the council with that initial tax abatement. Is this something that companies of this size and like this do on a regular basis, or is it something that occurs often in the industry?
Yes, definitely in the industry, and I'll give a local example. We've done maybe 4 expansions with Medline, to such that Medline formerly did distribution and manufacturing. They have continued to expand manufacturing and have thus pushed distribution out to the south side of the metro and continued more of a manufacturing trajectory here in Douglasville.
Okay, just curious. I just wasn't familiar with it as coming back to the table again, but I do appreciate all the work that you've done in that area, and it's a very impressive operation.
Thank you, sir. And just so everyone knows, this will add roughly an additional $1.7 million in new taxes coming into the city, county, and schools.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Anyone else? Down here, no? All right, well then, with the no additional trucks on Riverside Parkway, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda if there's no objections from council. All right. Thank you very much. That's all we have, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, and thank you to Executive Director Humphreys for coming this evening. We appreciate your time and your presentation. We'll move on to Planning and Development Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items tonight to discuss. First item, item A, is hold a public hearing and consider a request for a change in zoning from CG General Commercial District to O&I Office Institutional District with a special land use permit for a congregate personal care home, 13 or more, for 2.26 acres at 950 Bob Arnold Boulevard, land lot 678, District 18, Section 2, Parcel 8, application by Connor Capital LLC. As our mayor has already mentioned, the time limits have been given for the public hearings, and we will get started with the applicant coming forward. And give us your name and address for the record, please. Welcome, and give us your ideas on this change of zoning, please, sir. Thank you.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Parks for the law firm of Sam's Larkin Huff and Valley, 376 Powder Spring Street, Marietta. And I appreciate being here tonight. First off, I want to ask, it was included in the packet. Did you all get copies of the presentation material about the, okay.
It's on our tablets.
Good, that way I don't have to pass them out again. Yes. And so you've had an opportunity to look at it. This is an existing hotel property, 2.5 acres roughly, close to the Thornton Road area. And as you know, there's a lot of hotel competition in that area. And this sits a little bit off of Thornton Road, and it was time for a major remodeling and reinvestment in the property. And so the property owner looked at different opportunities for the property, and the proposal before you today is congregate care. And the first question is, what is this term, congregate care? I'm like you, or if you're like me, you went and looked at the dictionary to find out what in the world this meant, because it is an odd term. It is a term in your zoning ordinance, and what it basically is a living arrangement where seniors can live in a congregate environment, and that allows for the offering of services to the residents in that location. And so couple things it addresses is, number one, the large number of seniors coming. We all know demographically we're getting older and older as a population. The other thing it addresses is a lot of single seniors and a lot of people who need something that provides some services to be able to allow them to live independently for as long as they can live independently. And so that means that in this facility, you would have laundry services, food services, transportation services. So you have a van. And then really, really, really important, and it goes back to the term congregate care, one of the most important aspects of senior aging issues is social isolation. And so congregate care means you're living in a congregate environment. You're not isolated in a single-family home in a suburban setting that isolates you. And so that's really, really important here. And if you've had a chance to look at the report and the information regarding the operator, they've got a lot of experience of converting these hotels to this type of living arrangement. And so they would like to do it in this location, and it requires the property to be rezoned. And so that's what we've asked for, that rezoning for this specific purpose. I think it's really important to point out that as an older hotel that's a little off the main area, it makes the most sense that this be given another use. And I think this use is very much needed in the area and will provide great services for the community. We've had the pleasure of working with your zoning staff, and they've recommended approval of the application. And then at the Planning Commission meeting, they unanimously recommended approval, and I don't believe there was any public involvement in terms of sending letters or complaints or anything like that or concerns. So I think that we would ask that you follow your Planning Commission, your staff recommendation and your Planning Commission recommendation, and allow this conversion to go forward and allow this new service to be offered to your senior community in the area. And so I hope I've done a good job of explaining what in the world congregate care is. And it is just simply allowing people to live in a place that gives them some levels of support, congregate socialization, and allows people to live independently as long as possible. So I'm here to answer any questions you have. My clients also, the operator owner, can also answer any questions you have. But I appreciate your time and your consideration. And unless you want me to keep going, I think I don't need all the 30 minutes that was allotted to me.
Thank you very much. I'll open the floor and ask if council has any questions for the applicant. Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Thank you very much. This is in Ward 5, which is my ward. I'm very familiar with this building. It was previously used as a hotel. It was a Courtyard by Marriott. They had a fire, a lot of water damage from the sprinklers, and it's been closed for a decade, I think, at least. So it's great to see some life coming to it, some usage, even if it is a slight downgrading in the zoning. There are a lot of hotels in the area, so there are a lot of competition, and there is definitely a need for senior housing in our community. We hear that from our constituents a lot. So I've also attended the zoning board meeting, and I heard the discussion that they had, and I think this is a great use for this. I'd like to see more like this, and it certainly beats having another distribution center in the area. And there was one thing else I was going to say about that.
You still have time, so go
I
ahead.
do. I haven't used up the full 30 minutes yet, have I? The other point I was going to bring out was that this is at market rate. It's not subsidized housing, correct?
Correct.
That's all I had. Wasn't really a questioning until that very end part, was it?
Any other question of council? Yes, Coach Watts, go ahead.
Well, you kind of answered it. You said market rate. I was just curious, not that I'm quite there yet, but I'm getting there quicker than I thought. This type of housing, market rate, what is that? If somebody's out there and thinking about something like this, would they be able to afford it? I know that some people worry about having to give up their Social Security or their pension in order to afford to even move into a senior type housing arrangement. But
name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Dennis Stamey, 3704 Wilkins Circle, Powder Springs, and I'm with the owner and the operator group to address your question about price points. This is going to be an upscale property with higher end amenities, and a typical price point for independent living is going to be above $3,000 per resident per month.
Other questions of the applicant by council? Madam Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for the application. We know that it was unanimously approved by the zoning board, and Our staff has worked with us, and I talked with Mr. Schaefer last week, and it was a very positive experience, even with maybe the intimidation of the council member being there. Just kidding. But I wanted to thank you all so much for investing in the community and coming to rehab this area. It's much needed. I know the senior housing, to echo what Mayor Pro Tem said, is one of those issues that we really do need to provide more options for senior housing. So I just wanted to thank you for coming to the area and providing this option for us to help diversify our living space.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, I know what I was going to remember too. And rehab, I was at last Monday, this past Veterans Day. The Monday for Veterans Day, I went to Douglasville Village Apartments, and they're rehabbing those apartments. And so, do you have a schedule or how much time? The residents there were really, really excited about having those apartments redone. And so, do you have a time frame or?
Once this is fully approved
Yes,
by
if it's
the
approved.
authority of city, county, we anticipate no greater than 90 to 120 days to open.
That's very fair. Thank you. Thank you so much. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank
Other
you.
comments or
Chairman,
questions? Yes, go ahead, Mr. Davis.
I might have missed it. Could you repeat again what price range the housing?
You didn't miss it.
The average price point will be in the low $3,000 range per month per resident.
That was 1 hour intense conversation at the National League of Cities with housing and blighted areas. And how can the firemen, policemen afford when you blight it and build $1 million condos? So that's why I asked. Thank you.
Okay, any other question of the applicant? Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, go ahead.
Up again, just for clarification, that $3,000 includes not just rent, but there's more than that as well, correct?
That includes utilities, it includes meals, it includes 24-hour staffing, it includes courtesy transportation, it includes the socialization program, housekeeping and laundry. It's a maintenance-free living environment.
Thank you very much.
I do have a question, gentlemen. Is there any other question? From a layperson standpoint, would you compare this gentleman to what we would call assisted living? Is there a difference?
There is a difference.
Okay.
There is no assisted or personal care provided in this. This is truly an apartment building for active older adults.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else here then? Thank you, gentlemen. Is there anyone else here that would speak in favor of this application? Seeing none, is there anyone here that would speak in opposition to the application? If so, please come forward. Seeing none, then I will close the public hearing. And if you gentlemen will come back on Monday night, we will take action on this item. Okay? Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I did have a question. What age, which age is considered senior active?
Yes, it depends upon who you're talking to, doesn't it?
What's
Would you
the
like to
age?
address that? The mayor has asked what is the age that would be applicable, I would
This
assume,
might
in this
be,
application.
I'm going to be an empty nester, so what's the,
It's typically 55 and older.
that's what I'm talking
The
about.
clientele is usually in their 70s plus, but 55 and over.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I
Yeah,
apologize
sure,
for
no problem.
interrupting.
Okay, we'll move on to item B. Refer to the zoning board a proposed ordinance to enact subsection 1.05.03B1 of the zoning ordinance to revise the threshold for non-conforming structures, to amend subsection 2.02.02 to add references to 2 overlay districts, to revise the title for Division 1 of Article 3, to enact Section 3.24 to allow single-family residential on certain lots within the historic overlay district, regardless of the primary zoning district, to assign Section 3.61 to Division 2, and to enact subsection 3.62.02F to prohibit manufacturing of explosives, fireworks, and ammunition for small arms. I know that I have read a lot there, and that's about as far as I can do is read it. So we're going to ask Mr. Schaefer to come forward, and we appreciate his involvement with this to give us a little background about it and any particulars that need to be brought out. Thank you very much, Mr. Schaefer. Go forward.
Bill Schaefer, 6695 Church Street, zoning administrator. This is an effort that we've been engaged in now for probably several months, since July when I came on board, to help correct a gap in the zoning ordinance with respect to a manufacturing process, in part. I'll explain each one, but this is the more important one. With Ms. Littlefield and Mr. Ruffin, we got together and tried to come up with a range of approaches that would help us close a dangerous gap in the code that would permit certain things to occur in the city. And I felt that looking over other codes in order to attempt to protect a portion of the city from the dangers of using explosives in a manufacturing process, or actually manufacturing explosives in some way, which most cities forbid anyway, we didn't have that in our code. And I was concerned that at some point in the future you might have a fireworks manufacturer come to town and say, I want these number of jobs to be able to manufacture fireworks or ammunition, all of which become extremely hazardous to the citizens around them. And in addition, we were trying to look out for what other industrial processes might use explosives in their procedures. And the one thing we were trying to be very careful of is what would zoning classify home building or road building, which are not industrial processes. So this would not apply to a home building, which is a singular project on its own, or would apply to road building, which might use explosives to clear. We have a lot of granite, so it might have to clear that. But this would apply specifically to an industrial process that would be an ongoing manufacturing effort. The other parts of this were to assist us in cleaning up a little piece of the complaint about redoing homes downtown. So we have housing stock downtown. This is the other piece of it that would change over to office space, and then suddenly it would get zoned commercial, and you could not put a home back into that facility. So I've had so many requests over the last several months on homes that are not moving as offices. What can we do with those structures? And so I thought Ms. Littlefield worked with Ms. Henderson, and we tried to come up with an approach that would allow, if a home was constructed as a home, and we came up with some standards that would allow us to judge the house as a house and say, you've become an office over time, somehow city zoned you as commercial, but you wish to go back to becoming a home, I don't want to lose the historic buildings. And there's a lot of structures in the historic community that we would lose if we could not allow them to go back to being homes. So that was part of what this is trying to attempt to do, is at least allow the housing stock to rotate through its life cycle. So some decades it'll be a home, some decades it'll be an office, another decade it might become a home again. So at least we don't lose the housing stock of historic nature. That's the
Yes, sir.
gist.
That's a good point. The continued use of it and the continued occupancy of it would help to preserve it also.
Right.
Yes, definitely. One thing that you have not mentioned, and I want you to, just because I know that we're going to have more and more of this, is the first statement, revise the threshold for non-conforming structures. And I understand in reading over this today, we're trying to base that on a square footage amount of rehab rather than on a dollar amount of rehab. Would you address that, please?
So the issue becomes a combination of you put a building permit portion, which is a life safety portion, in with the zoning portion. And when we use a dollar figure for assessing nonconformance, you're mixing the two of those issues. And when you do that, and someone like McDonald's comes to us and asks, can I renovate the building? You wouldn't be allowed to renovate if your dollar figure for the renovation exceeds a certain value. In our case, it was 50% of the original value of the building. If I read that strictly, I would find myself in an untenable position of saying no all the time to everyone who comes to renovate. On the other hand, you also want to preserve your right to say it's a non-conforming use. We don't want non-conforming uses to continue ad nauseum out into the future. But in this case, taking it over to a square footage basis allows us a more rational connection between what is the physical non-conformance versus what is the value of that building. And that way we get at the issue of if it's destroyed 50% or more, it must conform to the current code. If less than 50% of the square footage is destroyed, you may rebuild according to what was, in our eyes, non-conforming. And I wanted to get that on there because, again, we're constraining ourselves for redevelopment when we use a valuation metric instead of a square footage metric.
Yes, and over time, as you mentioned, the McDonald's location, I want to say they were 30 years old, 25 years old. The value of that property has also increased greatly.
Greatly.
And the cost to rehab, because of life safety and the code enhancements that have come forward, would cause you to be easily above that threshold. So I think that's a good idea, and it then allows them to continue to improve, which we want to see the neighborhood improved. We want to see all of the McDonald's updated, which we now have coming forward. I think this will be the third one that we just approved.
Right.
And I appreciate your work on that. But I know there was a lot in that one paragraph, and it's very difficult to understand, and I appreciate you breaking it down for us.
Yep.
Are there any questions or comments concerning that item?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Madam Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the work that you've been doing and what you've done with this issue, Mr. Schaefer. I do have a question, and I hope I don't make it too confusing and complex, and it may be premature to ask this question. But for the homes and the conversion that you talked about for downtown and trying to keep the viability of those homes that had at one time were residential and now they're commercial, and we want to go back to residential. Will that be is that a staff? You said the staff will make the evaluation and make that determination on whether or not that it would be a place that would be suitable for a home.
We have a standard in the ordinance that allows us to look at the property and say it has a certain character that fits the single-family home character of the neighborhood. And so, yes, we could judge that as this was a single-family home, even though it may have been renovated to a degree and now looks a lot like an office, but it still has the character of the neighborhood as a single-family home. And yes, staff would make that determination that it was, in fact, a single-family home, and then it becomes a use by right. So
Okay.
we don't have to have a review before the council to approve this. It would simply be a building permit to, if they needed internal changes, to take it out of office and back to residential use. And again, if they needed to go to office from residential, it would again be an internal building permit, and we would capture the life safety issues with that and make sure that it was in fact compliant with building code issues.
Okay, I appreciate that. It's kind of taking all that bureaucracy out and having the person come through a long various meetings when it can be something that could be done on the staff level. And then the question that might be premature is, you talked about space and dollar amounts, and you said something versus square footage and price point. If you were to take, and that was another issue within this paragraph, it wasn't this particular issue.
Right.
But the issue for the future is about a tax parcel. So if that home were retail or office space, it's going to be on the tax parcel rated differently from if you transition it or convert it back to residential. So if it were 500,000, as a home, it might be 150 or 2, or how do you make that determination?
Yes, so when a residence would be converted from residence to commercial, there would be a business license associated with that. You would go to the assessor. The assessor would pick that up as a business license for commercial taxation purposes. If it were to go back to a residence, the business would disappear from that address, and it would be classified as a residential. So at least in terms of how you capture it, at some point the tax assessor would be capturing it by ownership, so that the owner of the property as a business or the owner of the property as a residence.
Do you do comps to make that determination on what the price point of that home would be? That's
Honestly,
my question.
the assessor would be doing that.
Assessor would.
Yeah.
Okay.
We wouldn't, yeah. And then back to your point of life safety issues for the other portion, which is the taking our McDonald's example. It's a perfect example of today the cost of renovation is so many of what things they had to do would be life safety. They have to still comply with the building permit, the building code issues internally, and that also has been driving the price of renovations higher. And so we're trying to stay on the physical nonconformance issue and then leave the life safety issues for the building permit review.
Thank you, Mr. Schaefer.
Thank
I
you,
think
Mr.
our assistant
I just wanted to
city attorney.
add to the explanation with regard to the going back to residential use for offices within the downtown area. It's not a discretionary decision that's made either by you or by staff, there are objective criteria. If the lot has only one principal structure on it, and if it has a 10-foot front setback that's grassed or landscaped, then it could also be used for residential. So there won't be decisions made along the way except to verify those things.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you, Ms. Littlefield. Thank you, Mr. Schaefer. Any other questions? If not, hearing none, I'd like to request that item B be placed on the consent agenda for Monday night, so that I don't have to read all of that again, as Mr. Mayor Pro Tem has mentioned. Seeing that, I appreciate it. That's all that we have under planning and development. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Parks and Recreation Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item tonight. Authorize city staff to negotiate terms for contracting with a specified design firm for a redesign of Jesse Davis Park, Mill Village Park, and William Workers Park. We heard the presentations in committee meetings tonight. We didn't quite finish. We had to, because of time. So we haven't had a chance as a council to discuss what we heard tonight, which we will do when we go back into committees after this meeting. Does anybody have any questions for Travis or anything before? Okay.
No, just that they were all three good firms, different, and it's exciting to have the possibilities. They were three great presentations, so we'll make our decision.
Okay, well, we'll talk more about it in a little bit. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have tonight under Parks and Rec.
Thank you so much, Coach. We'll move on to Finance Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have two items tonight under Finance. Item A is authorize the mayor to sign an option agreement with Ruby Cowens, Gloria Cowens-Dobbs, and the estate of Joe Cowens for the city to purchase .701 acres at 6695 Brown Street. This is a piece of property that we had discussed in the last couple of weeks that the owners had approached us about, and I want to make sure that there are any questions or comments that council may have or public comment about it, that we address those at this time. There is an option agreement that you will find as an attachment to this item. Any question or comment? Question or comment from public? Obviously, we're all then in agreement where there are no question or comment. I would, is it appropriate, Ms. Littlefield, that we could place this on the consent agenda to go forward?
Yes, sir.
Is that all right with everyone? Please do that. Thank you. Moving on to item B, then authorize the mayor to sign an amended agreement for the collection of ad valorem taxes with the Douglas County Tax Commissioner and the Douglas County Board of Commissioners to provide for payment of half the collection fees directly to the tax commissioner. Is there anyone that was going to address any item concerning this, Ms. Hampton?
We will go, when we go back into committees, we have an item for discussion. Ms. Littlefield, myself, and Ms. Callan want to go over a few things with you. So if you don't mind holding your discussion until we get back into committees.
Thank you, Ms. Hampton. And I apologize to our public viewing audience. We were not able to complete our committee meetings at this time before we had to come here for the 6 o'clock meeting. So we will be going back into the committees after this meeting is over, and then we'll bring this forward again on Monday. That is all that I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Finance Chair. I would ask, since you are the chair of this committee and Planning and Development Committee, if you would not mind going back to Planning and Development. It was not on our iPad, but there is a C, which is hold a public hearing.
If you refresh your iPad, it'll appear.
Yeah, it was not there, but when
I
we
have to do
refreshed-
that myself?
Just
You
hit that
can't-
little
You
circular
didn't do that
button.
for me?
No, sir.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Well, I thought it was updated when I sat down.
None of
I
us knew
apologize.
that.
No, it didn't come up on mine either. Mayor Pro Tem noticed it, and once we refreshed, then the item popped back up.
Technology.
Technology, you gotta love it.
Technology.
Someone may have tipped me off.
Would you like me then to go back to Planning and Development Committee now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then we're back in Planning and Development. Item C, we'll hold a public hearing and consider a proposed ordinance to amend Section 2.04 .03 of the zoning code ordinance to allow property to be zoned to R4 as a base zone with DCD developments, to enact subsection 3.03.07 to require a traffic study for certain applications for DCD zone property, to enact subsection 5.03.02B11 to refer to requirements for traffic studies, and to enact subsection 8.197.01A to define the traffic study. This being a public hearing, Mr. Schaefer is coming forward. I assume he's going to speak on behalf then of the city concerning this. Go forward, sir.
Bill Schaefer, 6695 Church Street, zoning administrator. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman. Sorry for the glitch in the agenda. This is the amendment that we have anticipated repairing the DCD ordinance to restore the R4 and then require that anyone proposing a DCD with an R4 density must complete the traffic study, and then anyone in the future who would need an amendment to the DCD in some fashion to either change what they were proposing to do or come in to do something new would also be required to do a traffic study. That way we can capture at least the knowledge ahead of approving a highly intense use on a given piece of property, that we would have the information we need to intelligently be able to suggest one route or another. We've been waiting for this one for quite a little while, and I hope if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer if you want to understand the details of the traffic study. But this is what Mr. Ruffin and I and Ms. Littlefield had boiled down to attempt to cover our bases as far as any development in a DCD would be required to do a traffic study.
Okay. Any question or comment of Mr. Schaefer concerning this item? Coach?
I just would like to say I'd like to thank Mr. Schaefer and Mr. Ruffin for their efforts in all the changes and the tweakings of our ordinances. This one in particular, I even heard a developer say he was surprised that we did not have traffic studies triggered in our ordinances, and that a lot of places do. So I really appreciate y'all's efforts in getting this done. Thank you.
Any other comment from council or Madam Mayor? Go forward. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I was just going to say, Mr. Chairman, thank you so much, Mr. Schaefer. Again, as has already been said by Coach Watts, I echo that we appreciate you all being forward-thinking. And one of those, that's a great concern when you have design concept development, and R4 is part of it, that it will impact the traffic. And so if we have that study already done, then that's something that will help the citizens to understand better how it will impact their neighborhoods and how many more cars will be on the road potentially.
And it helps you to be more transparent. We finally have the information we actually would need to make a correct decision.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, others? Is there anyone else here that would speak in favor of this application in this public hearing? If not, is there anyone here that would speak in opposition to that? Seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing. We'll take this up on Monday night. Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's all I have now, again.
Thank you. Thank you for your flexibility in going back to that item. We appreciate it. Now we'll move on to item 10, which is Information Technology Committee. The Vice Chair is Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have one item. That's to adopt a lessee resolution and authorize the mayor to sign a lease purchase agreement, a Motorola software license agreement, and other documents with Motorola Solutions Incorporated for the city's acquisition of equipment and software in connection with the planned new communications tower on Fairburn Road. Welcome, Ms. Knight.
Hi, good evening. Yes, I'm Karen Knight.
Can you pull the mic down?
Sorry.
Thanks.
Karen Knight, Communications Coordinator, City of Douglasville, 6695 Church Street.
Mm-hmm.
This is the lease purchase agreement, so we can actually build the tower on the second, for the second tower site. Part of the funding from this will come from SPOS funds. Part of it will be the lease purchase. We'll do like a 3-year lease purchase on this. And so we can build this tower. We're excited to finally get this hopefully done for public safety.
Is the tower going to be disguised to look like a tree like we sometimes see?
No, it will not look like a tree, no. It'll be a similar design to what's out here on our Spring Street location.
So we should be prepared for the complaints from the citizens because it's not very attractive, but it is needed.
It is needed, yes.
Any comments or questions from mayor and council?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I was just going to ask Ms. Knight to explain. I know you said public safety, but for the viewing audience, they may not understand why we have towers and why we need more, what their purpose outside of being a steel mountain.
Yes. Yes, this is so our public safety officers, our police department, fire, and in the future, fire and sheriff's department will have intercommunications, interoperability, and we will be able to speak down toward the Riverside areas and the Thornton Road area, the eastern side of the county, and also with the county coming on board with the radio system, we will have even further coverage throughout the county. So this is why it is needed.
Creates that continuity, and you won't have any gaps, so that if someone calls 911 or the police department or sheriff's department, we can respond quickly. We have another tower in that area that has had some growth.
That is correct.
Significant growth. Okay, thank you.
And for us, this is just one new tower. The county is actually implementing several new towers, including leasing space on one right across the river on Fulton Industrial Boulevard in Fulton County. So they're going to have a wide web with which to work as well. So this is definitely needed. Anyone else?
I might ask,
Sir.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Ms. Knight, how long have you been requesting in the budget that this second tower site be included?
I can think of at least 10 years, at least 10.
That's great. It's great news. I'm glad that we're able to go forward on it. Thank everyone for their hard work. And I just hope that it does the job to protect our officers and our emergency folks out there in the field. And one other thing I might add is this is not just a random selection of a site. This is a site that's in a very strategic location as far as elevation. And so you don't just run out and pick it. I know that it may not be the best site for the public in driving by to view every day, but it is strategically located as far as elevation. And that's very important as far as viability of the system, I'm sure.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, because
Thank
if you move it a little bit here or there, it might throw it off and
Correct.
have to start over.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? And then if there's no objection, and I have authorization from the chairman to put this on the consent agenda for Monday. That's all we have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on to Maintenance and Sanitation Committee. The Vice Chair is Councilmember Mark Adams.
Madam Mayor, we have no business tonight under Maintenance and Sanitation.
Thank you so much. Item 12 is Transportation Committee. That's chaired by Dr. LaShawn Burdanley.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. One item, adopt a resolution approving a list of city streets for the second round of SPLOST funding, repaving, and authorize the city staff to advertise the request for construction bids for this project. Okay. Mr. Roberts, does anyone have any questions? You want to make some comments? The streets look very good. I'm just riding around the city of Douglasville. You're all doing a great job.
Thank you. I did want to make one, and I apologize for the voice. Greg Roberts, Maintenance and Sanitation Department, 8578, I had to think, 8578 Club Drive, Douglasville, 30134, or you can email us sanitation@douglasvillega.gov. I did want to clarify that some of the streets are marked on here more than once, and that's because of the station markings. There's actually 22 streets instead of 25, but the dollar amount estimation is the same. It does represent those 22 streets. So I didn't know if you had any questions. All of these streets on here, from the ratings that we did through AECOM 2 years ago, they're all 4 ratings with as high as 7 on some of them, because some of the streets are long, so they have ratings on them. So some sections of one road might be a 4 and some might be a 7, but all the roads that were strictly 4s and 5s we've just about got on. So now we're getting to those streets that have multiple ratings, if that makes sense.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. You need a scarf on. Take care of your throat.
Thank you.
Are there any comments? Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I was going to say, Mr. Roberts, and I wanted, you never get sick. I don't know what's going on.
I know, I hadn't had a cold like this in a long time, so it caught me.
You're the cough drop man.
I know.
Okay, and you always say marvelous. But anyway, I wanted to know when the streets are going to be started, when that's this second round of SPLOST streets. I know we have to wait for the weather to dissipate, and it's difficult to resurface when it's raining outside and when we've had all this kind of weather that we've had. So it's kind of stalled us a little bit.
So on this one, you have the resolution there. And so from Monday night's approval, we would get these prepared to put them out to bid. And hopefully we would have them out to bid within the next 30 to 60 days after your approval. The year 2018, it's been a great year in many respects, but for paving and concrete work, this has been a tough year, as anyone in construction would know. And I guess a lot of times even I get frustrated with it on both of those projects, concrete and asphalt. It rains for 3 days, and then the first day it doesn't rain, the average person thinks you can go ahead and do that, but you've really got to have 2 or 3 days of dry, and getting those 3 days of dry, as Mr. Adams would tell you in his industry, has been very difficult in this entire year. And so it's been great not to have a drought. It's been great not to have forest fires in Georgia, but we've had a lot of rain.
So we don't, after it's put out to bid and it'll 2019, at the beginning of 2019.
Yes, yeah, we would not get any of these done before probably early spring.
Okay, so we're going to pray
maybe
for
late February, early March, somewhere in there.
for good weather so we can keep it moving.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you for your question, Madam Mayor. This item can be put on the consent agenda, if that is okay with our mayor and council. All right, there are no other items under transportation, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bordanley. We'll move on to Personnel and Organization Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No business tonight.
Thank you, sir. Ordinance and Intergovernmental Committee, Vice Chair Dr. LaShawn Bordanley.
No items, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Education and Training Committee, Councilmember Samuel Davis. I know you're coming back from National Leagues of Cities.
Yes, ma'am. And when my colleague get back, we'll have a report. But
Yes.
at this time, we have no education training.
Thank you so much, sir. Communications Committee, that's also chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
No items at this time, but at the end of the meeting, we have staff report, and Mr. Aaron will make communication.
Updates? Okay. Thank you so much, Councilman Davis. Is there any other business to come before this body tonight from council members? Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
I got a couple items. Tuesday night, I attended a very informative and pretty well-attended town hall meeting with our police department. Got to park in their new parking lot in front of the community room. It's not quite done yet. The lights need to come on because it was dark when I got out there. But they did a great job, and a lot of good information was given out there. And the other thing I wanted to bring up is I mentioned earlier in the meeting the final official vote total for the brunch bill. The other question we had on the ballot was for the redevelopment powers, and that also passed. The yes vote was 6,321, and the no vote was 5,316. So that was 54.32% yes and 45.68% no. So I expect we'll be discussing redevelopment powers at our planning retreat in February. That's all I have.
I'll take the yes, and we'll make the 45% believers. So, thank you. And I apologize for missing your town hall, Chief. I was attending the drug court graduations, alternative court graduations at San Marasco's. So that's why I missed it. Any other business to come before us this evening? Okay, if not, City Attorney, Mr. Joel Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Chief Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Susan Littlefield.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. Chief of Police, what's up, the chief?
No
Chief
business,
Sparks.
Madam Mayor.
Now, I did have just for you to clarify, I've had some questions from people about the whiskers. So police officers have beards now, not yours, but we have young police officers coming in, and sometimes you're used to seeing them being shaven like in the military, and so I think that we've given them options to have beards. I just want you to talk to about, I think you changed the policy or something.
Yes, we, it's part of our community outreach program is that our officers are looking more like the community. I mean, we going away from the militaristic look somewhat, and our officers have a little. I think it's more conducive to our idea of policing in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm.
Look militaristic, look similar to our community.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what we're doing now. We changed that philosophy. So when we first started out, a lot of the guys were wearing their beards and that asked and calmed down a little bit. But you know, it's part of it's 21st century policing. It's not old school policing. And I think if you go across the country, you see more of that. You see more of this in Georgia now. So
okay,
it's always just trying to be on the cutting edge of doing something different.
Oh,
You know,
that's
may
my
not like, but
explanation.
it's what we're doing.
Well, thank you for explaining that. And also, I don't know if you want to give us an update about this past weekend. You did have another community outreach with the Alpha Phi Alpha. You went to a community and
We went to the Mill Village apartment. We're gonna be doing some outreach work in the Mill Village area, and that apartment complex is one of the apartment complexes where we received most of our calls for service, not bad calls, just calls for service.
yes, sir.
So we're going to partner with some of the local fraternities, and that was our first go at it, and it was attended very well. We had hot dogs and sodas, and we're going to go back in there and try to do some educational things for the kids, help them with the homework, or do some parenting classes, and do some other things in that community. And plus, that we'll be taking that same philosophy to other apartment complexes. It's going to be our approach to trying to combat the gang influence or just the criminal addicted thinking mindset of some of our young people, trying to empower our young people towards their greatness. So we're going to implement this with some of the fraternities and other civic organizations that want to get on board with us.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for going to the Mill Village. We appreciate that. Any other, I know I'm putting you on the spot. I'm making you talk. So anything else you have, Chief?
No.
Thank you, sir. Youth Against Violence, third week. How many in the class?
Matter of fact, we got it tonight. As soon as we get out of here, then I'll go to Against Violence. We have a program that night.
How many in the class?
Well, Thursday night we got 22,
Yeah.
so we got about 30. So 22 tonight. That's really good.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We'll move on to our city manager, Ms. Marsha Hampton.
Good evening. So tomorrow you all will be taking your final trip for this year to community visit. We'll be going to Swanee, so we're asking you to meet here at the conference center at 9 a.m. so we can make our way to the northern part of town. Carlos Underwood will be your driver. So if you are not intending to take the trip, please let me know. I do have some folks who will not be going. We'll be meeting with their mayor, as well as their city manager and a few other folks there. You'll be looking at the town green. You'll be talking about open container and some of the other things that they have around their town square. So all of this will be information that you'll need to discuss as we look at the amphitheater. Also, just to remind you, on Monday night, we're starting at 4 p.m. again. We have several rounds of interviews to complete, and City Hall will be closed on Thursday and Friday of next week in observance of Thanksgiving. So,
Thank you so
and
much.
we do have to reconvene back into committees tonight.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. City Manager. Now is the opportunity for comments from citizens and delegates. The floor is open if you would like to say something. We would love to have you come forward and give your name and address for the record, and we'd like to hear from you. Dr. Ramona Jackson-Jones, the Chair, County Commission, you want to come forward, please? They get 5 minutes here. Oh, he said you get 5 minutes here. Would you please come forward and talk to us about Veterans Village and how that we did, another citizen was awarded in the city limits from Habitats for Humanity's Mr. Leslie Chu and a group this past week, and Senator Johnny Isaacson was here to dedicate that home to one of our city residents. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming, Mr. DeVitrion.
He knows better. He's leaving now. That's what he said.
So I'll have to make him talk, huh?
Thank you so much, Mayor, to the mayor and to the city council and to the appointed leaders. Thank you for having me come forth. It was another great moment at the Habitat for Humanity here in Douglas County. Certainly this Habitat Humanity housing project is geared toward our veterans and those who have served diligently and respectfully in the military. So it was great. We had Senator Isaacson come forth, and he rendered a wonderful speech. And Marilyn Clark was the recipient of this wonderful house. So she's considered the chief of the subdivision, and then the first recipient, and I forgot his name, but he's considered the mayor of this wonderful complex. And we are looking forward to potentially 8 houses, a total of 8. So far we have 2. We've actually cleared land for the 3rd home as well. So we're looking for veterans. This is geared toward veterans. It's a great initiative here in Douglas County. And actually we're setting standards in the nation, really. We're the 2nd complex in the United States to do this, or should I say this 2nd complex in the United States to have this Habitat for Humanity that was specifically for veterans. So this is a great initiative, effort. We're excited. We look to do more in the future. And again, I appreciate the Board of Commissioners, appreciate the city's support with regard to this. And our veterans are just ecstatic. So if you know any veterans looking for a home, please reach out, and we're certainly willing to assist. So thank you so much, Mayor, for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. You want to talk about the Veterans Day Parade or no?
Oh, the Veterans Day Parade was amazing. We had over 1,000 attendees sitting out. We didn't have as many as we typically do because the weather was rather chilly.
Cold.
And then it also was on a Sunday night, but it was another success. The mayor and I both served in the military, so we were there certainly leading the pack, and also just extending our sincere appreciation for what our veterans have done in this country. And as a veteran myself, and also a Marine wife, and then also a daughter of a paratrooper, Korean War paratrooper, I knew I had to be there. Drove all the way from Memphis, Tennessee. Had attended my aunt's funeral, but I had to return on Sunday and attend this amazing event, which is dedicated to veterans. So my hat is off to all the veterans here in Douglas County and in the United States at large. So thank you so much for the opportunity again, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for allowing me to put you on the spot. Any other comments from, I'm not going to make anyone else talk, but comments from citizens and delegates? The floor is open. Thank you. Not seeing any. We do have staff reports regarding upcoming December events. So Mr. Aaron Sorowitz, if you don't mind coming forward and talking to us about our Christmas parade and some other things.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Aaron Sorowitz, 6695 Church Street. The first event I want to talk about is that there's a UDO meeting. That's the Unified Development Ordinance meeting. That'll be here at the Conference Center on November 27th. From 6 to 8 p.m.
Okay.
And then there's a couple internal events that I want to tell you about happening on December 4th. So there's the annual New Hire Breakfast. That'll be here at the Conference Center from 8 to 9 a.m. So come on down and get breakfast and meet some of the new hires. Then later on that morning, there'll be the Employee Service Awards, and that'll be at the Conference Center. That starts at 11 and ends at 1. So you can just hang out after breakfast, have some lunch. And then that evening, we'll have the meeting number 2 of the Downtown Master Plan update for Phase 1, and that's here at the Conference Center from 6 to 8 p.m. And there might be dinner there. So you can just have breakfast, lunch, dinner here. Just hang out with us
On the
at
4th,
Conference
everything is on the
Center.
4th of December?
Yeah, all day.
Okay, now.
So, and then finally we'll have the Christmas parade and tree lighting ceremony on December 7th. And there'll be a parade, and Santa will be here. You can take pictures. There's going to be a movie for the kids. I won't give what movie away yet, but there'll be hot chocolate too. If you want to hang out and watch a movie. And then the following morning on the 8th will be the breakfast with Santa at the police department community room from 9 to 11.
Oh, we moved it from Hunter Park? Oh,
So this
okay.
will be the first year at the police department.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, the 6th of December, we have something too with the Keep Douglasville Beautiful. You didn't have that on your calendar?
Not on my calendar,
Oh,
no,
okay.
I'm sorry.
They're receiving 5 awards
Oh,
for Keep
the
Douglasville
award ceremony,
Beautiful.
okay.
But it's in Macon, Georgia, so maybe that's why.
Okay.
But for council members who want to attend, Mr.
Sure.
Gregg and Chan Weeks and our team receiving 5 awards from the state of Georgia for Keep Douglasville Beautiful.
Apologies for that.
Aaron, would you verify again on the 27th, that joint UDO meeting? I've heard 6, I've heard 6:30. Is it,
We have it as 6.
so it is 6:30? On the 27th?
That's okay.
Here. Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Okay, any other business to come before us tonight? Then I'll make a motion that we adjourn this work session, legislative work session. And, well, I'm not making a motion. We're going to adjourn this work session, and we're going to, after we have a recess, then we'll come back into committees. So, not having any other business, and this meeting is adjourned.